Okay, so welcome back. If you've seen my first video, thanks for coming back. If not, well, welcome to the channel. Start. Okay, hello. It is Sunday, September 1st, 2024. Figured I'd throw up another video covering New Balance basketball. My name's Eric. Hello. I run the NB Hoops Life account on IG. Hopefully people have checked it out and seen it. Maybe you came here because of that. Thank you. If so, if not, well, welcome one way or another. So I want to get into it. Certainly with the signing of Cooper Flagg, I figured it was a good time to cover New Balance and kind of that youth push, that youth movement that's going on. So what does that look like? Because it's not just Cooper Flagg. Certainly we know Cam Brinks. It's not just her, though certainly she's a part of it, and I won't necessarily touch upon her too much. But really want to talk about the high school players. Because the New Balance, as we've seen recently, and maybe you haven't, maybe people haven't noticed it. It's something that I'll get into, something to talk about. But New Balance is making that push, that youth push, and we're talking youth push. We're talking those high school players, some still in high school, some not, but they haven't had that time in college even with these signings. So that's what I'm really focusing on. Got my cheat sheet here of the list here. We'll talk about a few. One, Aaliyah Crump. She's certainly a big one. First female basketball signing for, in this case, Klutch, under that New Balance umbrella. So all these signings are being done under Klutch Athletics, under that New Balance umbrella. So it works to promote certainly Klutch and New Balance. It's a pretty versatile line in that regard, which I love. It's great. You know, it doesn't hurt to have that name there. And for people who are just into that Klutch part of it, not necessarily the New Balance part, that's great. Other people certainly be aware of that tie-in. I'm going to give people a chance to learn it as well, to learn about Klutch and how it ties into New Balance, how they've really synced up pretty nicely. So Aaliyah Crump, I thought she was going to Texas this year. Apparently she's going to Montverde. Number 4 recruit in the country. What an awesome signing. We know Montverde from Cooper Flagg, of course. So that's a big one. That's a huge name school. Big signing right there. Big signing. Number 4 female player in the country. WNBA in a couple years. You know, talk about Cam Brinks, of course. She'll be in, I would say, fine form by that point. I would expect her to be an all-star. We expect her to have a really good career. So we'll see how that goes for all involved there. So that's Aaliyah Crump. You have Isaiah Harwell going into his senior year. Caleb Wilson, Jaleel Bethia, University of Miami, out of Philadelphia. Caleb Wilson out of Atlanta. Isaiah Harwell, I think Idaho, going to school in Utah, transferred out to prep school. So you have guys by many accounts that I see. I haven't had a chance to see these guys play in person, anything like that. You see highlights, and they're talked about as premier guys, top guys who are projected to potentially be draft picks, hopefully make that influence in the NCAA, which is huge because New Balance will have their names attached to them, tied to these guys, under Klutch, however it might be, but still works out for both sides again. But that is huge. So you have these young players who, look, the public, the basketball watching public won't necessarily know these guys. And that's where I think the strategy comes into play. So you have guys that are up and coming, they're young players, they're not name brand necessarily, with the exception of one, the Cooper, which we'll get into, but you have these guys that people get a chance to discover, to learn about and see grow and become superstars potentially. We don't know what they'll do exactly, but it's a chance to learn about these guys. They're going to college, or high school, still college, whatever it might be. They have a chance to grow, they have time. The spotlight isn't going to be on them right now for a lot of them. And that takes some of the pressure off New Balance in a way. They don't have to sign a guy like a Kawhi, like a Jamal, like a Zach, Jamal Murray, Zach LaVine. They don't have to sign these guys and have them pay dividends right away because, New Balance signs a Zach LaVine. He's already at the All-Star game. Jamal Murray, they signed him up, not too long after, relatively speaking, was the championship. Kawhi, obviously, we know the success story there. But a lot of eyes were on them. These guys, University of Miami, University of Texas, wherever Harwell and Wilson end up going. So it's yet to be determined. So the spotlight's not necessarily on them. It's kind of a low pressure signing for New Balance in a way. It's a chance for them to develop, to get good, and if and when they do, and we can't say definitively that they'll be those those stars that New Balance hopes they will be, or even in the league, we just don't know. But if they can make it, boy, does it look good. But let's look at the flip side. Look at the other side of it. Let's say they don't make it. What has New Balance lost? Right now these guys are promoting on their IG and they have hundreds of thousands of followers. They're promoting on social media the Klutch brand. It looks good. So there's something that you get out of that right off the bat, pay some dividends. Whatever money they're getting from New Balance, fine. Comes out of whatever budget, however it goes, fine. So these guys are under that umbrella. They're promoting the brand now, but they don't pan out. What happens? Does anybody remember Justin Edwards? This was a kid that was signed to Klutch, first name image license guy, NIL deal for New Balance. You don't hear anything from him. He went to Kentucky. He was projected to be the top pick in the draft, if not a top pick. Let's say top 5. That's still great. Still phenomenal. Nothing happened. He went to the NBA, didn't get drafted. He's on a 2-way deal with Philadelphia. We don't know, again, what'll happen. There's a lot of uncertainty in these deals, but as far as I know, he's no longer with New Balance. He was wearing Kobe's a lot. Did they really get anything out of the deal? Probably not. What did they lose? Sometimes some money invested, but I didn't see any headlines about big failure. This guy didn't pan out. This guy, where you might see, an NBA player that gets signed. They get injured. Ooh, looks bad. New Balance. Oh, they got injured wearing New Balance, and they're not able to promote New Balance on court because they got injured. You lose a series wearing New Balance. Kawhi with Dallas. All the injuries with Kawhi. Look, it comes back to New Balance in that way, one way or another, but didn't happen with Justin Edwards. Heard nothing. You could arguably say he's young in his career, but you could arguably say, he kind of didn't pan out the way they expected. But what does it matter? What was lost exactly? So the hit to the reputation for New Balance wasn't taken in the same way that it could have been for a guy in the pros. The sign-in just didn't quite pan out the way they wanted to. So you have those guys, but then let's look at the big one. Let's look at Cooper. He's an obvious one to talk about. I talked about him on my first video. I would say no matter what, that's a signing that is good. This is not a guy who nobody was going after, who it's like, why did they sign him? Did it come out of the blue? Yes. But it wasn't a move that people are questioning. Nobody's saying New Balance shouldn't have signed this kid. Not saying that's the case with these other guys. I would say for most it would be a surprise. It would be, New Balance is signing high school kids. That's out of the blue. It certainly was for me. The public is not expecting that. That's not something these sneaker brands traditionally do. It's still relatively new and uncharted territory there. So, New Balance is breaking ground to a degree. They're laying the blueprint. I'm sure other brands are aware, and they'll respond accordingly. They have to, or they don't. Not doing anything is a response. Just letting New Balance sign these guys and not worrying about it is technically a response. That's saying something. So, but we look at Cooper, Mr. Flag. Yes, he signed. He's with Duke. We know it. The only questions were, what's he gonna wear? How's that work? Well, we know he wears Nike when he's participating in Duke activities, and other than that, we'll see him promote New Balance. He already has, which is great. And people are talking about it. It's already a win. It's already a win for New Balance. They signed this premier player, that number 1 guy in his class that you wouldn't expect New Balance to be able to get. There were factors that worked out in their favor, and guess what? They capitalized on it. That's what you need to do as a brand to be successful. to grow, to get these guys. So, a lot of credit to the team at New Balance Hoops and everywhere for making it happen. It's not just Klutch, of course, but it was the New Balance label. So it looks really good. So I don't think you can lose for that. If he gets hurt, heaven forbid, you can't predict those things. You just can't let a guy like that go. You can't pass up an opportunity like that. Nobody would have known, but you still can't do it. You can't. So you win no matter what. The talk is there. Look, if he gets hurt at Duke, he's wearing Nike shoes. And there will be talk about New Balance still if he gets hurt. Again, it's not a scenario I like to think about, but if he gets hurt wearing New Balance shoes, that's different. It's always kind of rough there. But if he gets hurt wearing shoes at Duke, they'll be Nike, and people will still talk about New Balance. Even then it'll come up, oh, he has this New Balance deal. Worst case scenario, we don't want to see that happen, but that would be the case. So there's a squad. What does it mean? It's a youth movement. That much is obvious. That much is apparent if you're paying attention. People aren't paying attention now necessarily. You're not seeing too much talk about it. Maybe people are. I don't know. You got to tell me. Comments, YouTube comments. Reach out to me direct on IG, NB Hoops Life. Let me know what you're seeing, what you're hearing, what you're talking about it, if at all. If there's any buzz there that I'm missing out on. But it's a youth movement. You have the guy like Kawhi, he's at the top. He's getting up there in years. He's had his injury history, which is fine. It happens, unfortunately, but he's a guy that'll need to be replaced. Somebody will need to step into that role. And you have guys like Jamal Murray, a little bit of an injury history, but he's in the prime of his career. He's, I don't want to say second fiddle, but he's playing with the man right now in the NBA. So he gets overshadowed a little bit as a result. So he can lead to a degree, but there are limits there. He's a great player. Love to have a guy like him on my team. But there's that limit there, and I'm happy he's with New Balance Hoops. I have all his PEs, his retail ones, of course. They're bridging the gap in generations, or I guess draft generations, you could say. These NBA drafts every year, obviously, but they don't sign somebody every year. It's Neesmith, Baisley. You got those two were in the draft or right before. You have a Nick Smith and a Chris Livingston, who don't know exactly when it happened, but pretty young in their careers. And they were New Balance basketballs, New Balance Hoops. So, it's bridging that gap. It's getting these young guys in the draft or before it. So you're covering the whole range. You have guys tail end of their career. You have guys in the peak. You have guys, maybe you're just not certain where they are. You have a guy like DeJounte Murray, who's solid, who's in a new situation that looks really good for him. I'm excited about it. So, we're covering a lot of bases there. And then you have Cam Brinks, another young player, social media presence, and that's a big thing too. You're getting these social media guys who they're young in their career. They're only going to get more followers and more attention as they rise up in the ranks, as they do better, as they get noticed. So New Balance, I imagine, looking for the next 2 or 3 people, maybe more, to lead the charge into the future. If New Balance ends up, having signed this group and they all are top 10 picks in the draft, I don't think New Balance will be that upset with it. It'll give them a lot to work with, too much in a sense, but there are worse things that can happen. So definitely thinking of the future, because the current is rather well established, I would say, and I know people might differ with that, but you have guys in place in the Jamal Murrays who could get another championship, and a Kawhi who will have an interesting story if nothing else, and a DeJounte who, look, they're gonna be competitive in the West. We don't know what'll happen in the West. We saw what happened last year. So Minnesota, Denver, and Dallas, and OKC, everybody in a crazy mix. So there's no reason why the Pelicans can't be in that if they stay healthy. I love a guy like Zion if he's healthy. McCollum, dangerous. I always hated seeing him play against my team when I was in San Francisco with the Warriors. So it's dangerous too. If they got that, Brandon Ingram, solid core there. DeJounte Murray's an aggressive player in that mix. could see something good happen. So we're looking at those guys in place. You have Cam Brinks coming from injury next year. It's practically her debut with New Balance again, the way it's played out, unfortunately. It'll be interesting to see what they can do with her and grow the WNBA, because I imagine, will be leading that charge. We'll see what happens with the WNBA with Crump. I think that'll be a couple years with the NBA draft and the WNBA draft and the rules. And I think she couldn't play until like 2027, 2028 in the WNBA. So definitely thinking about that future. You have guys in place. Zach LaVine, we know, is still there, kind of in a holding pattern. He's got the fresh foam shoes, which look really nice. So you have a lot there. So there you have it. We're looking at the future of hoops. They have a solid team in place, both leading the hoops division as well as players setting them up for the future. It's kind of a no-loss proposition there. I really like it. I'm glad it happened. But certainly I always like to know what people think. What do you think of these signings? Did they miss a high school player? Was there another player that maybe could have been in the mix that they overlooked? Maybe. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know what you think of the signings. Do you think I'm way off base? You think I'm on the money? Let me know. All right. I think I'll probably end up doing some more videos. You never know when these topics come up. It's a slow time of year. New Balance basketball should be kicking into gear soon enough. The two-way, the Hezi, the Fresh Foam BB, the Kawhis, whatever surprises come our way, I'm looking forward to it. Whatever happens, I'll be posting on NB Hoops Life on IG. I'll have these videos. We'll see how it goes, see how people like them. If you hate them, let me know. If you like them, let me know. If you're ambivalent, if there's something I could do better, if there's a topic you want, let me know. Went a little longer than I thought it would, but all good. Thanks for watching. Later.